Owen Yeoman and Tim Kang aren't real cops, but they're
TV Police!
the TV Police.
New Year's Police.
Well, why are you doing it by yourself? And
Well, I wasn't doing it by myself. I was just doing a little bit as the intro, and then we were all going to do a big moment at the end.
all right, okay.
See, we're a seamless team, aren't we? This is what I love
Wow,
about
this
us.
is-
So every time we get together, it's just seamless. Look
Just
at
real
that.
quick though, I just when I was trying these on earlier, that do you guys know those Groucho Marx glasses?
With
That's what I
the
look like right
mustache.
now.
Dude,
Yeah.
for real.
I look like that now. I look like that now.
You do.
Yeah,
You,
that's,
yeah, you do. Why is that? Oh, well, I mean, the stash,
Could be that.
obviously. It's been a minute. Obviously, I guess needs no introduction. The return of the phenomenal Amanda Rigetti, aka
Yes.
Grace Van Pelt.
Thank you.
It is so
Thanks very
wonderful to have you back. You've been halfway around the world since we last
yeah.
saw
Fill
you.
us in.
Yeah, I have been. I was in Australia, about an hour west of Sydney, filming independent film about an MMA fighter that gets stage 4 lung cancer. So, it was a musical comedy.
Comedy?
Twist.
Oh,
Yep,
light, yeah,
exactly.
something
Yep.
with more family fare.
I hope it wasn't anything personal that immediately after we taped the episode, you decided to basically go to the furthest away point on the planet and not
Right.
return until now. We'll try not
It's
to
like,
take that personally.
Just trying to avoid you guys. No,
I gotta
not at all.
leave.
Not at all.
We want to delve into that obviously in more depth. What was the name of the movie?
It's called Relentless.
Relentless.
Yes.
Much like us, Tim, we have just been relentlessly going at it, and we haven't moved. Amanda, you've been to Australia. We've just sat here in the TV Police studio
This is the
recording.
view I have every
Look,
week.
You
Yeah.
lucky duck. I mean, honestly,
Hi,
and
Owen.
with that,
Hi, Tim.
this is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the view I
There
have.
we go,
There
there
we go. Yeah, I wasn't sure, but we joke about it, but it has been almost 20 years, so inevitably.
Mhm.
Oh my
as-
gosh. It has been, hasn't it?
Isn't that crazy? Someone had said in the comments, 20 years on from the show, Owen forgot to age. Agreed. But 20 years on, definitely older, certainly not wiser, but I would say 20 years richer in friendship and love. And I just love the fact that we get to do this, because people often say, oh, I love seeing you guys reconnect. We
Yeah.
haven't reconnected.
Well,
we've
it's
been
kind of like we didn't miss a beat.
right.
You
Pick
know?
up right where we
It
left
just
off.
picked
Yeah.
up right where we left off.
Mhm.
We really did. I was really looking forward to this one, and what an episode.
This
Oh,
one-
I'm
man.
so
Yeah.
curious. Wait, I'm so curious why you chose this one to have me back.
Oh, there's no rhyme nor reason.
Yeah,
okay.
we just wanted
Yeah,
you
yeah.
back sooner
As
rather
soon as
than
possible.
later. Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it.
Yeah, there's
There
so
was
much.
there was a lot of like inside jokes on this one that were the beginning of the entire duration of
Right.
The Mentalist. Like what was it? No business like show business.
Mhm, mhm.
Wasn't that born in this episode?
Yeah, I think so.
It
Wasn't
was.
That, and that wasn't scripted, right? So didn't
I
Simon
don't think so.
just
I think he
pull
ad-libbed
that
it,
out during a
didn't he?
take? Yeah, he ad-libbed that.
That is, I mean, I see. I
You
got
guys
a bit
were
of
in
an
the
issue
room.
with that.
You don't remember?
I think I came up with no business.
Oh, did
like
you come?
show
Okay.
business.
I
But I'm
told
not
you.
gonna I'm not gonna die on that hill. But I'm pretty sure that no business like show business had been in circulation before then. Like someone
Okay.
had said it. This guy, and then there was an opportune moment for it to. But I listen. See how I
He's
feel on the day.
counting.
I'll see how I feel on the day. This was a great episode, Crimson Casanova, one that I remember very fondly personally.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Tim does
and it
too.
was a very Blake Neely episode. There were so many little interludes. Yeah. Like more
The,
than
the woman
usual.
whisperer.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
I just little things. Yeah, it was great.
When I read Crimson Casanova, I completely forgot the Paul Freck character,
Yeah.
and I only remembered it being a reference to Cho.
Right.
So in my mind, you are always the Crimson Casanova.
Yeah.
Tim.
Right. He's the Crimson Bear. Right.
But this was the episode that in my opinion, and maybe Amanda's better qualified to speak to this as a woman, but this was the episode that firmly established Cho as a sex symbol. In my opinion, right? I don't want to be the one to sort of take it back to Brown again, but
oh my God, there's so much brown in this episode,
there is a lot
guys.
of brown
I was like, I almost wore brown tonight just to like really dial it in. I was like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like everywhere I looked, every scene, it was a lot of brown.
I was gonna say magical things happen when you get Cho out of Brown, and. The minute he was in that sharp dark suit, the double black Oakleys, game over. Game
Had it all
over.
going on.
Mm-hmm.
Really did, and I think that Blake Neely really just had to just watch and then just let his fingers just find their way over the ivories.
Over. Yeah.
I do want to say right off the bat, as a special way to welcome our beloved Amanda back to the show, I thought it was only fair that given that we had namesake quench flavors now, the Rigsberry and the Coca-Cola, that
what do we got?
I introduced both Amanda and the fandom to the Grape Van Peltzer.
Perfect.
The Grape Van Peltzer seltzer. Served in the.
I need mine.
There you go.
Oh,
there
forget it. How many liters you got in there? How many liters you got in that one?
I think it's about almost two. I don't know. It's 50 ounces.
479 liters in here. So
that's
the
it.
Great Van Peltzer seltzer, light, bubbly, refreshing, just like Amanda Rigetti.
That's the new flavor. Yeah.
So now we have a trio of flavors. Expect your
Brilliant.
social media to be spammed with Grape Van Peltzer. You're welcome. Happy New Year.
There you go. Here it comes.
Can't wait.
But off the top, let's dive straight into our one-word remembrances, because I know if we don't do them now, we'll never get round to them, because the three of us together, this could just go very long and very wild.
My one-word recap remembrance is...
Okay.
Smooth. Tim's word is
Get that in
smooth.
focus. And then my secondary word, I always have a secondary word.
Of course you do.
Is fun and funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
That's
good.
it.
I thought we were going to go 3 for 3 today, guys. I really did. I'm a little bummed, but mine was very obvious, but I couldn't. I just couldn't not go with no business like Cho business.
Yeah.
It's iconic.
This one-word recap is...
My one-word recap is 5 words. and maybe if I was to distill it to one, it would be Cho. Because this was, for me... We've talked a lot about on the run up to this episode how all of our characters are finding their groove. I think the last episode we remarked particularly on how Simon felt very free and like he was really bedding into the Patrick Jane character. This for me was just Cho at his finest, because we also got a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. And that's real nice. What started off as an episode about womanizing and something entirely different, for me, ended up being a really welcome deep dive into one of our most beloved characters. So for me, Cho.
Cheers. What do you got?
Women
Whisperer,
Women Whisperer. Yes.
Love it. Yep.
Now, Calistoga Ranch, was that the name of the place?
Yeah, I was trying to remember where that was. Was it Malibu?
Well, I was hoping that you'd
I think
remember
so, yeah.
because Tim and I would say things like, I think that was at some point in 2008. And you'd say, on Tuesday at 3:30, we found out that the writer's strike hit. I was like, wow, Amanda's mind is like a steel trap.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
I've got
sure
a
it was
feeling
Malibu.
was that way.
It's
I think
Malibu.
it was Malibu.
Yeah.
It was
It
one of
was?
those. I want to say it was like Calabasas area, maybe into Malibu. Like
well,
the
know,
Malibu
Amanda
Hills.
says it was Malibu, so it was Malibu, bro. That's
It was Malibu now.
was Malibu.
Even if it wasn't, it is now.
moving
It is
on.
now.
And
That's where we shot. Yeah.
Calistoga Ranch was one of those very familiar TV places. And I think the thing about LA in general is that after a while, it must get very hard to not get location fatigue,
Yeah.
because
Well, the
this was
backlot. We shot the backlot so many times.
to death.
So much.
Yeah.
To death. Like, yeah. I don't know how many times they could redress it.
Well, and not just us. I mean,
Yeah.
every time we were filming, I remember I'd have
3 other
conversations
shows.
with
Yeah.
you where you'd say, "Wasn't this where Batman was?" We were like, "Yeah." Wasn't
Yeah.
this where? Yeah. Oh, and look, there's Big Bang Theory over there, and Two and a
Yeah.
Half Men there. So it was one of those places that felt very familiar even before filming there.
Yeah.
And I guess for some reason, my memory of this episode is very, very vivid. And I think, again, it's because on the day we had a lot of production photography taking place there. So there was a lot of stills that are online that reference this episode.
Hmm.
Was this a particularly memorable episode for you, Tim, because it was so Cho-centric?
Certainly, right after we did it, it would continue to reverberate, and I would think back to it. But honestly, what I remember from this, aside from the things that we all kind of remember from it, is Leslie, the director.
I knew you were going to say that.
She was phenomenal. She's the best director I'd worked with, and that's what I remember from this episode. In fact, I could have put that on my card there as my one-word recap. But yeah, that's what. That's my memory.
Leslie, I'm going to butcher her name now.
Linka
Glatter, thank you.
Mhm.
Rather legendary television director who I believe is the head of the Directors Guild. Is she still? I know she
Yeah.
was.
She was,
right?
Christopher Nolan came in now. So
Oh, right, sure. He hasn't done too bad either. Aware of some of his early work.
Yeah.
Kudos, keep going. Bright
work
future,
hard,
that
keep
one.
working hard. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Aim for the, shoot for the stars. The thing that I really loved about Leslie was that she was, as Nina pointed out, in that time, and I guess, it'd be interesting to sort of get your view on this, Amanda, as well. Were you aware that we didn't have much female presence in the director's seat?
I was aware. But if I recall, we were still shooting film
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
in this season.
We were. Yeah.
And so it was a lot different than the way things happen nowadays. But I feel like she was an outlier. Like, she was one of the only female directors we had that season, or maybe one of a handful. Like, it was really minimal in terms of female directors coming in to the show. I feel like in the beginning, as we went on, it was a little bit more prevalent. But
And she
I
was
feel
just
like,
coming off of or riding that Mad Men wave
yes,
before she came in and did our show.
yeah, and because our show, like, because we had such great ratings, it was like our show was like a pretty big get too. It was like the next
Right,
kind of
for the
big
dream.
thing. And
Yeah.
so we, I feel like we were really blessed to have some amazing guest stars, and we had the opportunity to have some really great directors that came through.
We did, yeah, I agree with that. But it was amazing when we were chatting with Nina. She said that what was really interesting for her coming up through The Mentalist was it was such a male-dominated world, the producer-director world. Arguably still is, but hopefully that glass ceiling has been more, broken now, and those opportunities are there. But she said that she really, really, whenever she can, tries to pay that opportunity forward to female colleagues, because she was given a very rare opportunity. I actually saw Chris Long the other night, and he sends his
really?
love, but he said to me that, he was just floored by how much Nina ran with that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it was a lovely change of energy and change of pace, and interesting that this episode was directed by a woman, because I would imagine that there could be so much to take issue with in the subject matter as a woman, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like comments about women.
Right. Yeah.
No
among the
eyebrow raise
episode.
on certain things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think half of the challenge of this episode was being able to sort of condemn some of the more gross sentiments being conveyed. And fortunately, they were being conveyed by a character who was inherently unlikable. I don't remember the name of the actor who was playing the guy, and this is no comment on him personally. It was the way he played it was fantastic, because he was, to use a Jainism, irksome.
Right.
And it was one of those things where I was like, it was kind of a clever casting device to cast a guy who wasn't particularly attractive and have him be this complete lady killer.
Right.
Because, there are, not that I've ever read them, but there are books out there, right, on how to be a pickup artist. I don't know why.
Why'd
On
you
there, Tim?
preface it with it?
On there, Tim? on there
I think
books
the
out there on
lady doth
how to be a
protest too much here. Yeah.
But it was really, really interesting to me to see our show again engaging in the lighter side of things after a particularly, you know, because the episodes preceding this had really flip-flopped, hadn't they? We'd gone very, very dark with Red John's Friends. And then we'd gone a sort of little bit in the middle with Paint It Red, which had its more absurd moments, but also had some really, really grounded moments. What was your sort of main takeaway from this, Amanda? Did you have much of a remembrance of being in the episode? Some episodes I look back on and I'm like, I don't remember a thing about this.
Yeah.
I didn't remember anything until I started watching it, and I was like, oh, I hated those pants.
You did remember the pants. Yeah.
I
Isn't that
remembered
funny?
the pants because I
Isn't that
hated
funny?
them, and I couldn't wait to not have to wear them again. With
I
that crazy
loved
big
that.
belt. I'm like watching it going, what
I
is
love that first
happening?
scene with you guys, Amanda. The look on your face when you guys were interviewing, because it was all of you, or it was you, Simon, and Robin.
Yeah.
It was, and I made this note. It said, I think, what was it? The scene with Frick was wonderful. Robin looked amused. Simon had this sort of condescending look on his face, and you just had this disgust painted on your face, and it was so funny. And I was just, it was a perfect scene. It was great.
Oh, thanks, because I was feeling very judgmental about it when I rewatched it. I was like, oh, she's so stiff and uptight, you know. But
you mean about the scene
that
itself.
but that was Van Pelt. I mean, she was written so like square and uptight, you know. But
you
ran
with it.
I mean, and that's what made it great. You know what I mean?
Thanks.
I look back at this show now, and Tim and I have talked about it at length. Like, what would The Mentalist look like today? It would be a very different show.
Oh, it would be a very different show. I think there's a lot of things that we probably wouldn't be able to get away with now that we were able to get away with back then. And, you know, subject matter. I don't know. I think it was really of its time, and it was very unique in the timing that it came out. And the industry was in such flux that it sort of felt like this constant, you know, because it was very much in flux. And I feel like when the show was over, what we came back to was a completely different industry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
It didn't even look like the way that it did when we booked the show. And so there was so many moving parts that were happening within the industry outside of the show that it just felt like that kind of constant. We were the last show on TV that shot film. We were one of the last SAG contracts. Like, there were so many things that, to me, the show represented like the end of an era. In TV, you know?
We talked about this, about how the show belonged to a different time when I remember watching Rushes and, you know, the dailies on
Remember
DVD.
when they would show them at lunch too? You know?
they would
be like,
show us
oh, we're
the
watching
episodes.
the Rushes at lunch, or the episode was going to air during lunch.
But there was something really beautiful about that. And I thought that had belonged to a bygone era. And I think in the main it does. Until quite recently, I did a stint on Bosch. And they did that too. And they were celebrating the end of their series. And they were all there watching it at lunch. And again, another big hit show. So I just keep coming back to the fact that a certain chemistry of people, and if you're lucky enough to assemble those people and those writers and that moment, therein lies the hit. So when people say, well, what's the key to a hit show? It's like,
it's so many moving parts.
Yeah, so many moving parts, you know. But it was interesting to sort of look back, and it's funny that your first sort of knee-jerk reaction was, oh, those pants, because I had that same thing with, oh, that leather jacket, when is it going to get retired? Proof though that the jacket wasn't the
like
couch.
Oh, brown,
just brown,
everything. But again, maybe those autumnal hues were very 2008.
That's the thing that with Owen too, sometimes when we're having these conversations, his command of the English language is so much more heightened. I would say brown color.
Brown color.
And
it's very British.
Owen says autumnal hues. Though that's the difference.
I feel like I'm becoming slightly Patrick Jane in some of the,
Some of the way
we
words you
talked about
choose, yeah.
He's rubbing
furtive
off on you.
longing, and well, we've been deep in the show. It's hard not
Yeah.
to.
I'm so curious. Did you guys watch The Mentalist this much when you were filming it?
Never.
No. In
Never.
fact, our first episode, we said, when was the last time you watched this episode? And both of us said September
Never.
30th, 2008.
Yeah.
And, which anyone who knows me will have a hard time believing that I don't sit at home every night just watching it on a loop along with, But the truth of the matter is that...
No, you know what? Actually, to be honest, I did that first season. I was pretty good about watching it just in terms of wanting to know what the show is about.
Yeah.
But I don't think from second season on, I never watched it.
It was more that
No,
we also had the business. We had to shoot the show. The fact of the matter is that at any given time we had 2, sometimes 3 episodes on the go. So if we did have the luxury of being able to sit down and join the crew and watch the show, that was rare. And to your point, Tim, I think the opportunity to do that became less and less. It brings up an interesting question, though. As actors, do you mind watching yourself? Is it instructive? Is it helpful? Do you just can't bear it? How is that for you, Amanda?
It's not helpful for me. I tend to, which I think is why I have such a hard time with self-tapes. I get really hypercritical.
Right.
And then I get stuck in my head. So I prefer not to. It keeps me free to perform. Whereas if I'm watching myself, everything is under a microscope. And then when I go to perform, and especially with something like The Mentalist, because you're still working on the same character, I would start to micromanage my performance. And I just felt that it wasn't servicing the character.
Right.
And it put handcuffs on me as an artist a little bit. So there's a good chunk of the show that I haven't seen.
Well, I'm excited for you to discover it with us.
Yeah,
because you're brilliant in it, and you're going to be very pleasantly surprised.
Happy. Yeah.
How about? But I can say this now without any spoilers. 20 years on, it did very well. So well done.
You're right. Right.
Yeah, the show did good.
It was a success.
How about you, Tim?
I'm kind of neither here nor there. I think, and as I mentioned, the first season, I made it a point to kind of watch and just more for how they're shooting it and what kind of what show is this. But after that, it was more because of what you had just mentioned, is that we're busy shooting the show, and
Sure.
And my methodology, as we've gone over in previous episodes, is read scripts 10 times and really pour over it. And so if I'm doing that, I don't have time to be watching every episode that we do. So
one thing that I've noticed in the rewatch of it is how much I can get from other people's performances. I have a much more refined appreciation of those characters that I didn't have as much time with. So now there's this kind of pleasurable experience of being able to go back, rediscover the show, and appreciate. Last week we were talking about the nuance that Robin brought to Lisbon. For me, the relationship with Lisbon was always very much, yes, boss. But there was so much more to her than that. There's a lesser world or a lesser version of Lisbon where she could have been made to look rather useless. And she doesn't. She holds her grounds. Maybe I should be a little better at watching my performance because I know how I feel in the moment, and maybe this is because I came from theatre, but that doesn't always translate to the medium of television or film, which is a very technical medium. I think there is a terrible tendency to be self-critical. I can't think of a single audition where I came out and went, nailed it.
Yeah.
And I know actors like that, and I envy them because now whether they're actually getting
Do they
the role,
book it?
right,
No.
right.
When they feel like they nailed it,
No, but that level of self-belief is both delusional and enviable. Because
I guess you need it to be an actor.
I would, and we get it less now because there's no such thing as going into rooms anymore. Everything is
anymore.
Zoom. But in those days where you used to sit in a casting room, can you remember those? When you think back and you look around
did it so
20 or
much.
30 people who look like a version of you,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh,
Well, and how much I sort of like dreaded it back then, and now I look back at it with like nostalgia and go, oh gosh,
Yeah.
those were the days.
Yeah.
I miss those days, which it's true. Even though it was really nerve-wracking and it was like going through a train wreck every time, there was magic that could be born in the mystery and the unknown of what was going to happen or not happen in the room, and you just kind of go with whatever energy you're given and what is presented to you. And it was kind of an exercise at times, about
Can you
like,
remember your best? I know this is a question to both of you guys. Can you remember your best audition? It doesn't necessarily have had to have led to the job, but an audition where you did come away and even just privately you went, I'm really proud of myself there.
Yeah, I can remember
and
that
can
one.
you remember on?
I remember that one. Yes.
And can you remember in tandem with that an audition that you wish the universe could just erase?
what's funny is the ones that I wish I could erase are usually the jobs that I booked.
Yes, I know where you're coming from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have an example, Tim?
No, I mean, they all just kind of blend together. But what I was going to mention is that I always, at the beginning,
Just
especially
one
because-
booking after another, just
Well,
solid booking. But
No, I mean, they mash
one
together
network
in
show
terms of,
after
like,
another.
just a terrible experience. But I remember just being a terrible auditioner. I wasn't good at it. And it is a skill set that you can do better if you work on it. And I feel like this is what happened for me. I got out of drama school, didn't know how to audition. If you gave me the role and you gave me a month to work on it, okay, I could come up with something, but not the here's 15 pages, learn this by tomorrow and go in and do your audition. So I would go in, be horrible, go in, be horrible, go in, be horrible. And I felt like I was slowly starting to get better. But as soon as I started kind of figuring out the audition thing, the Mentalist came our way, and then we stopped auditioning in the room. We don't do that anymore, and it's well, so right when I started to make some headway, it became obsolete.
Right.
So
Now you're back to square one.
now I'm
figure out
back
how
to square one.
self-flame.
Yeah, trying to figure it out again. So
It's one of those things that it's very hard to describe to people outside of the industry. And I want to take a second just to kind of contextualize it because, I'm the same as you, Amanda. And this just doesn't happen, obviously, with self-tapes. I remember having an audition that went very well. And I didn't think it had gone very well, but the casting director ran across the car park. And that's the stuff of actors' dreams. Like,
Yeah.
came up to me in the car and he went, we're going to call the studio right now and get you into test. I was like, what? Because back in the day, my memory of things happening at such a lick, like these days, things seem to be a bit more considered. Generally, good news always travels pretty quickly. Bad news just never comes in our business. If you have to be calling and asking, you already know. And I'm reminded of a previous manager of mine who's gone on to become a very successful producer. He said, you always know why you've cast someone, but you can never truly know why you didn't cast someone else. I think in my early career, I had this terrible habit of always wanting to get some sort of feedback. What was the feedback? The feedback was you didn't get it. It's very, very clear. What feedback do you want? Yeah, there you go. Consider yourself fed. But it's interesting because I remember that frenzied time on the run up to the Mentalist, and you're so right. It was a very specific time in television where there was almost too much. I remember going in for sometimes 7 or 8 auditions a day, and I'd have a car that would just be filled with potential costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Today I'm a doctor, I'm going to go and then be a builder, and then I'll be a marine. And then I tell this story because I got very confused once, and I was going back to back really late. I ran into the audition room. They were like, you're in, come. I was like, oh God, okay. So I ran straight in. I was like, hi, nice to meet everyone. Yeah, great. And they were like, okay, in your own time. And I just blurted out this 3-page monologue. I can't remember the name of the show, but it was about brain surgery. And it was this long technical monologue. And I finished it. And in my mind, I was like, oh, considering I was really late, that actually went okay. And so I sat there going, and there was just silence. I was like, wow, nailed it.
you stunned them to silence.
and after what felt like 3.5 hours, the casting director leant forward and went, "That was great. I have no idea what it's from, but it was great. And I realized I'd gone in there and I'd done an entire monologue from the wrong project.
Right.
So they then said, if you'd like to read our sides, we'd be really interested to see what you can do with that. But
Every
you're
cloud.
right. It is.
That's
It is.
amazing.
Yes. It's a
And
time
it's so
that
great
is.
they didn't stop you. You know,
They didn't have a chance. I was off.
Yeah.
I was like, this all my surgery.
Yeah.
So I was in it. But you don't get that now. And weirdly, I never thought I would say this as someone who, it sounds like both of you guys are the same. Didn't really enjoy auditions. I now find myself thinking, oh man, future generations of actors will probably never have that, right? Do you see a time to it where it will go back to being in the room?
No.
Unfortunately, no.
Maybe
But
No,
I
I
also,
think-
in
I
theater.
think it breeds a different kind of actor.
Yeah.
I do.
Right.
I think it breeds an actor that is looking at it from a vanity point, rather than a performance point.
But it also raises some tough questions, because one thing that you mentioned so accurately was how fortunate we were to have great guest stars. And sometimes people that the other week I was looking and saying, why do I recognize that woman? I realized it was Darby Stanchfield from Scandal, playing a very small supporting part in our show. And the quality of people that we got through the door. Now, I'm not saying that the self-tape process mitigates that, but you can get, and I've seen this in practice and I've heard directors talk about this, someone who's very good at auditioning, but might not be so great on set. Because if you're at home and you have 100 opportunities to get it right or get your version of it right, that's one thing. In the fast twitch muscle of shooting, that's not always the case. So
yeah, which is why to me the algorithm of self-tape doesn't make sense yet. Like I'm not really sure how it translates, because you have the opportunity to redo it or do it as many times as you'd like until you feel strongly about what you're sending. When you're in the room, you have to be able to take direction on your feet. You have to be able to improvise if you drop a line or your reader's not great or whatever. You just you make chicken salad out of chicken if that's what's in front of you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think with self-tapes, that opportunity is not really availed to an actor anymore. And you don't have an opportunity to see how you can pivot within a scene if it's necessary, like you could in a room. You have to sort of create that environment for yourself on a self-tape, and how it sort of translates on the other side for the producers. I don't know how they narrow it down and decide how to hire an actor straight from self-tape if they don't see them in the room. I would be very curious to know how that process works. I think even with all the heart attacks of in-room auditioning, there was a real magic to it, and there was an experience that I think could also translate onto set.
A kinetic
And
energy,
there's an
I think
energy and there's a training to it that when you're on set or you're in a room and there, it just,
Let me tell
there's-
you what you two guys can do with your energy. I hate
let me
being
ask you
in the room.
Let me ask you this. You prefer self-tapes?
Me?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, when self-tapes came out, I was over the moon.
I like them, but I
was-
haven't figured out how to.
Do you know
Like,
the
what they're
interesting
looking
thing to
for.
take away from this?
Yeah.
Because I'm halfway between the two of you. I do know, all jokes aside, what you mean about there being a certain kinetic energy in that room. More crucially, and I think one of the very astute observations you just made, Amanda, was there is the question of directability. Because a lot of actors can come in with a really polished, wonderful version of something, and they'll go, "That's great, but can you nuance it like this, or can you change it like this?" And half of the challenge, I always thought, and certainly the auditions that went well for me, were always about how much can I onboard the director or the producer's changes or suggestions.
Yeah.
I've come in with my version of your material. They're like, okay,
Yeah, but they're
interesting
not.
stuff there.
They're not ultimately going to cast from that. I mean, typically, if it's like a main role, they're going to take it down. They're going to see 10 self-tapes, bring it down to 3, and fly those 3 people in to test, right? I mean,
But what I'm
for
saying
the
is that
main role, right?
I think what it does is that it misses that nuance in step one. So you can have a lot of people who can fly now a sort of version, a polished version.
But why do you
in
need
the
that
door.
when you see them in the room ultimately anyway? Why would you
I'll be
need
honest
that?
with you. Last 5 jobs that I've done, I haven't even had the in the room experience. It's just all been from tape. So I'm not saying that that isn't a system that still goes on, but I think that I definitely love the lack of pressure of being in your own environment. That's nice.
That's what I love
You
about
know,
it.
but then it's maddening too, because to Amanda's point, there's never a point then when you want to let go. You're like, I could just do one more. And Gigi's like, you've got it, babe. Come on, you've got it. Like, take 47.
But I think, like I said, there's something that happens with the unpredictability of being in a room.
Yes.
And working under that kind of pressure. And again, it's changed a lot since we auditioned for The Mentalist. We were still on film. So sometimes you only had 50 feet of short ends, and it was like, we only have 2 takes. That's all we have.
Right.
So you got to get it right, and you got to be able to work under pressure. And I feel like those pressures are no longer a part of making television or film. It's different pressure. But
I think I understand what you guys are saying now, and I would say that I do agree with it, the kinetic part of it, and how that brings, it's like live theater. It's like doing live theater.
exactly.
Right? Your performance is there. So you have to make all these choices on the fly, and there's some energy there that, yes, I agree with that. And I agree that it translates into an in-room audition process. But I never got good at it, so I'm not doing that.
Well, I think
Fair.
that's a wonderful moment to segue on to conversations about the role of the director on set, because we've already talked very, very positively about what Leslie brought to the episode, and I'd like you, Tim, to maybe elaborate on some of those earlier sentiments, because what for you made Leslie so special in this episode? Obviously, it was a very show-centric episode, but what was it that Leslie specifically brought as a director that made a difference for you?
Yeah, and this segues right into my word, so I'll just go right back into my word. It was, the main word was smooth. And to me, that word encapsulates this entire episode, because everything about it, from the topics, the characters, how we're presenting the characters, and the directing, the way that she shot the episode, to me, was smooth. And I think she took cues from the script itself and the characters in the script, where, the pickup artist is smooth, right? Cho is trying to be smooth, and
Cho is
Rigsby,
smooth,
and different levels of smooth. Rigsby's trying to be smooth.
Rigsby was not smooth.
He's not smooth at all. So that's a level of smoothness.
Sure.
Non-smoothness. Yeah.
Non-smooth. Yeah.
And
rutless versus rutted.
Yes.
You were rutless. I was heavily rutted.
Rutted.
Yes. To use Ken's analogy.
And to me, Leslie, the way she shot it, I noticed right up that, there were long takes. It wasn't chopped up a bunch. We brought back the mentalizing quite a bit in the beginning. Spotting things, Jane looking at things, spotting things. I remember there was a scene with you, Amanda, and Simon, I think, walking to the door, and it was just this long sort of opening scene. It was on your feet, and then it came up and caught you, and both of you guys turned to the camera and did your lines. Just that style was something that, up until this point, I hadn't really seen. I mean, we chop it up pretty good. So
well, and I think Leslie beautifully balances the technical with being an actor's director. Like, still getting into the meat of scenes and the actor's intentions and things like that, while also servicing the technical aspects of catching things, like you said, from camera's point of view.
I mean, even the camera movement. I mean, she's on tracks quite a bit, and she's transitioning, and she's moving into shots like this, and it just flows, and it's this. It's not chop, 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 chop.
It's not just talking heads.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if, to go back to your earlier point, Amanda. This is an example of a talented filmmaker really understanding and knowing their technical craft too,
That's it.
because
Mhm.
it's one thing to know the sort of the visual element of it, but the technical stuff, and again, we're shooting on film. So maybe that lends itself to that more smooth, open, gliding vistas because to your point, Amanda, you really, really do have to lean into that. And I think there's something stunning about a panorama in film that you don't get with, I always liken it to when people take pictures now. We don't get, and it's apropos of this episode because there's a bit where Jane spots a digital camera. And I'm like, no one would spot a digital camera anymore. Everyone has their photos on their iPhone. But
Exactly.
unfortunately, in the age of digital, I did a photo shoot not long ago, and the photographer was talking to me about how much harder it is now to stand out as a skilled photographer because everyone fancies themselves as a photographer when you can take 5,000 pictures and just pick that one, So I think you're right. I think the technical change in the landscape has also affected the creative change in the landscape. And I think what we're seeing with Leslie is someone who really understood film and
Well,
knew how to
I don't
utilize
think
it.
that skill set I think stays valuable throughout. I mean, there was a shot when I think Cho comes and sits on Van Pelt's desk, and it's a 3-shot of the three of us, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, you're here, Amanda's here, and I'm here. I mean, it was just perfect.
We also
and
had Geary McLeod, which
That's
he
right.
was. I
Yeah.
mean, come
Geary
on,
was the
he
best.
knew how to light. I mean, he was gangbusters at what he did.
There was
He
another
was-
moment. There was another moment too where I think she and I wish I remember it was. I think it was you, Amanda, and Simon, and she held both of you. You were in the background and you were out of focus.
Yep.
But your reaction was to look over at I think it was the ghost whisperer, the
The lady whisperer.
The lady
Yeah.
whisperer. Yeah.
and but she kept you in out of focus, but
Yeah.
it was about your reaction. It was really
Mm.
weird, and it was worked so well. And you would think intuitively, oh, we should rack to Amanda to get
Right.
we want, but it was the way she set it up, and that's how I remember Leslie.
Let me ask
Really
about,
understanding all of those elements.
let me ask you guys about, obviously preparation is precious little in network
Mhm.
television, especially episode to episode. We're usually sort of wrapping up one episode before we're even on to the next, and then we're ADRing it as we go. Did you have much of an opportunity, and did you guys feel comfortable when you knew you had a bigger episode coming, trying to grab some time with the director ahead of time? Was this one of those episodes where you were able to sit down with Leslie ahead of that, Tim, and say, hey, I'd love to just sort of get your thoughts on where you think Cho is coming from and going to in this?
Yeah, for me, and I think it's kind of probably the same for you guys when it was like a VP episode or a Rigsby episode, would regularly get in touch with the directors and the writers of every episode that we did.
Right.
Whether it was a small little question about the 2 scenes that Cho was in for that particular episode, or it was a Cho-centric episode and I had a lot of questions. And so for me, it didn't really change. It was just the volume of questions that I might have or the interaction that I would have. But I would instantly, as a matter of course, send the writer an email and send the director an email. And just be
Really?
like, yeah.
Good for
Every
you.
episode.
Yeah, good
Just
for you.
like-
Did you, Amanda? No, me either.
Gosh, that makes me feel like a terrible actor. But no,
No.
I feel like, and I think probably because I did a bit of TV before this, but the directors were always foremen and the
Mhm.
DPs were the
What does that
constant.
mean?
Like the directors weren't as in control of a lot of things
a
as
foreman.
the
Got it.
as the
Foreman,
T-
yeah.
as the DP was.
Yeah.
And so normally any conversations that were had, it was if the director had approached me previous to them, starting the
Sure.
episode. Sometimes I would meet them the first day that they were on set and
Yeah.
hadn't had an opportunity to speak with them prior to. Really, my go-tos were Chris Long or Bruno.
Mhm.
If I
Same.
had questions, because it was character driven, and I knew that the director wasn't going to have much pull
Mhm.
in changing any kind of character driven storylines or anything like that. It was really going to be Bruno or Chris. And so any questions I had about character were usually put in their lap.
I think for me, though, it
was
was
the
more of
same
a
as that, yeah.
check-in. It was more of a check-in with
Which, good for you.
the guy that
Yeah.
or the girl that was going to be handling set, the director,
Yeah.
and then you know they would come back to me if I had a real like a character question. They'd say, "Oh, you know what? That's kind of above my pay grade," and then I'd be like, "Okay, you know what? Let's take it to Chris." You know, or
I think
so
that's really. I think
as
that's a really
team,
admirable.
We would go ask Chris.
Yeah, I think that's a really admirable approach. I don't know if I had the confidence early on to do that. And so I think for me, it was more about not wanting to trouble people who I thought, like you say, Amanda, maybe at the end of the day didn't have the say in that. I do remember much later in the show being a lot more proactive about that, though. The episode specifically between Rigsby and his dad, I do remember having a large powwow with the director about that. Given that it was New Year's, I thought it might be nice to bring a touch of magic to this episode. And I do this because my dad, in his retired years, he's decided to take on a magician alter ego, and he does magic shows now. And he calls himself, rather unfortunately, Magic Mike. And I've had to explain to him now that Magic Mike has quite a different meaning. But, you know, he has a very impressive magic set. So I just wanted to do something that wasn't at all impressive. But can you see this? Nothing in this cup, right?
Is that a fly in the cup?
It looked like something in the cup.
I mean, don't be. It's just dirty, guys.
Oh, it's dirt.
It's just dirt. I mean, like you didn't have to embarrass me. Like you know, when David Copperfield comes up and goes, "Ooh," what? And they're like, "Wait a second,
There's some dirt in there.
There's some dirt in there." Yeah. So yes, just one dirty cup.
Yeah, empty.
Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. Empty. Just a regular wand, right? Regular wand, just a regular magic wand.
Regular
take this
hollow magic.
Not hollow. Just a regular
hollow
magic
wand.
wand.
You're giving it away.
I know.
You know, just watch this, okay? So I'm going to put it in here.
What happens
I'm
to
gonna
the
say
people
magic
listening?
words,
Oh.
okay? I'm going to describe it to them. That's a very good point. I wasn't thinking of our viewers in audio. Currently, what I have is a slightly dirty cup in front of me with a non-hollow wand. I'm about to do something spectacular. You'll be able to tell from the silence just how awe-inspired my Mentalist castmates are. I'm blanking on like some magic words I could use. What do you think?
Abracadabra?
I mean, sure. Okay. Abracadabra!
Like it was dirty, Tim. A flower just popped out of it. For
Wow.
listening.
Exactly. So, you know,
I'm smiling now. That was a good trick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah. So I think we can now.
Thank you.
So did Magic Mike show you that one?
Magic Mike passed that down. So proof
Yeah,
that magic it's in the blood.
It's in the blood.
Kudos
Yeah.
to Magic Mike.
And yeah, kudos to Magic Mike. I'll give him a big shout out. Back to the episode though.
Yes.
I want to do my word very quickly, but I will do it after Amanda has done her word. Remind me of your word, Amanda.
Oh, right. Sorry. It's a good thing I didn't throw it away.
Screwed up and thrown in the trash. She's like, oh, sure. Yeah, you're going to need this later.
Yeah, no, the women whisperer.
The woman.
There we go.
Okay.
Just feel like there was a lot of women being whispered to on
Boy,
this
was there.
episode. And plus he was like a self-proclaimed woman whisperer. Frick. That's his name,
Frick.
right?
Frick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, it seemed a bit thematic for this episode. I mean, Cho was picking up the ladies at the end as part of the sting operation. We got the ladies' man that's like lady whispering. Jane's got some comments about the ladies in front of the Suburban, you know?
Yeah, that, and just to fill that in for you, was men are toasters, women are like
accordions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Yes.
And that was where Blake Neely put in a little accordion,
Oh, you did?
Oh, yes.
little accordion ditty. Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah.
How does an accordion sound? I wouldn't even know.
Well, it's like yeah, that's how it sounds. You nailed it.
For some reason, men are like toasters. I felt like he was going to say women are like microwaves. That's what I felt like that line was going to be. But one thing that stuck out to me was contempt, control, excitement.
I wrote
Is that how
one
you
down
like to be
too.
treated, Amanda? Do you like the men in your life to treat you with contempt, control, and then excitement?
Right. I love how Van Pelt's like calls you a jerk because you totally are like trying out your.
I mean, this was
your weird dating whatever.
if Cho really sort of flew with the mission and took off successfully, I think Rigsby was thoroughly grounded and just not fit for flight. Because when he tried to put in practice the contempt, control, and excitement, I don't think there was any of those. I think it was just sort of.
Mean.
But but
Just like,
I've never subscribed to that. I remember when I was younger, like always thinking, oh, girls like the bad boys. But the truth of the matter is that fundamentally, certainly in terms of a relationship, people want to be with someone who treats them nicely. It's so simple at the end of the day. So for me, there was a lot that felt a little bit dated about it. Also,
Amanda, real quick,
was.
I had a question for you. If you can explain, because it was your line, did you bump up at all against the "you can't generalize all women in general"? I didn't quite get that line. What? Right? Do you remember it?
Yeah. And I can't remember if it's because I flubbed that line or if that's the way it was written.
Oh, okay.
But I think it sort of plays into the naivete of Van Pelt,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
There have been some interesting writing stylistic moments that we've noticed over the last few episodes where people have said things twice or doubled down. And so there was a very pronounced rhythm to the words. I mean, we had some great ones. We had in this one, Jane talking to Mr. Walcott. It's about your wife and you're in a monkey suit swanning around like a buffoon right before he flicks him on the nose. Yes. I actually thought this was going to be one of those and a great actor, Sasha, who went on then to become a series regular in Grimm, amongst many other things. But I thought this was going to be one of those episodes where Jane was going to get punched in the face again. Mm-hmm. If I'd had to put money on it, I would have thought for sure. But for me, this episode was all about Cho business. If someone was to ask me to describe what Cho was about, I would send them to this episode, because one of the comments that keeps coming our way on the TV Police is, wow, I think Tim's smiled more and spoken more on the TV Police in one episode than he did maybe in the entirety of The Mentalist. And I take issue with that. I tell you why. Because I think, yes, the deadpan thing is very, very present with Cho. But an episode like this shows you the deadpan only works because there is a real functioning live persona under it that chooses to present that in work mode. And I think what I really, because otherwise he'd be what I put in my notes here, a sociopath. See what I did there? And he's not. And what I loved about this episode was, yeah, you were smooth as hell and, a deserved sex symbol. I do believe they even ruffled your Lego hair, right?
They did.
The Lego hair looked a little tousled,
yes.
And what was interesting
deliberate.
to
that
me,
was deliberate.
But yeah, and I noticed it, as a fellow Lego hair wearer myself, you wouldn't have known this, but Calistoga Ranch was a very windy day. Tim and I standing strong, no problem.
I did remember the bloopers, though. You remember the bloopers of that?
I do.
With
all the wind.
With the wind.
It was insufferable. I mean, when we were having lunch, there wasn't a single take with Simon and I where the tablecloth wasn't blowing off and glasses were smashing. But it was for me, just a wonderful balancing act of all the things. And so if anyone ever says to me, oh, well, Cho was just the deadpan guy, I would say, go and watch this episode and see how much nuance and detail and warmth there is. Because that moment at the end with Katie, where he is sitting and talking to this woman who is genuinely been damaged by this not very pleasant guy. It's impossible not to love your character in that moment, because it was real and it was warm. And you got the Frick character, and that is the unctuous way to woo. And then Cho, apparently, he didn't need to be told the assignment twice, because he was just off to the races, like taking names left and right. One thing I do have to ask you, what does Cho say? What does he say in that moment that makes them disgusted? And was there ever any conversation about that? Is it suitable for air?
There was never any conversation about that.
Right. Do you remember what you said? But do you know what I loved about this is that I felt like, and I'd love to hear from Amanda on this too, we all got a moment in the sun. And this was a really fun early one for Cho. It had, and I couldn't believe that all these Cho zingers were in one episode. That's
I know.
impressive. The best
Yeah.
I can do with one phone call is a pizza.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were just so in command of the interrogation room in this episode. So it was like, okay, we've seen Cho with the pizza line, and then there's no business like Cho business.
Yeah.
And then to have that walk in, I got an equivalent of that years later with the reunion episode, and I walked into Here Comes the Hot Stepper as Derek, driving my own car, no less.
You guys clocked that moment. Really funny. Made me laugh when Cho was interrogating Natalie, the little
The blonde.
The
Mhm.
blonde.
and it was the funniest exchange because
Huh.
she was giving Cho the deadpan, and
It's funny.
yeah,
I
it
didn't
was
notice
like it was like two Chos going at each other. You know what I mean? It was the funniest, weird, like
A Cho off?
moment. Yeah,
Sure. There
That's so
were a
funny.
lot
I
of
love that.
zingers, I feel like, that
Yeah.
were born in this episode that
Mm.
carried through the entire series.
Well, we were
that
talking last week
Were
about
inside jokes.
how annoying I was, and I think the things that you repeat can be funny, and then they're not funny, and then after a long time they become funny again.
Yeah.
So Wallet Badge, for example, I
Yes,
reminded
Wallet
Tim of
Badge.
Wallet Badge, because I sent him a
I love
text the other week
Amanda remembers Wallet
on
Badge.
s-
Wallet
set.
badge.
on set with Alison Tolman in Emergence, and she had pulled out a badge, and she was like, I don't want the badge on the neck. I want the, what's the word for it? And I walked past and I went, Wallet Badge, it's a badge in a wallet. And she was like, what? And I was like, sorry, it's been doing that for 7 years. And and No Business Like Show Business probably came up every other episode.
Every
after this.
episode.
Mm.
Every
Easily.
episode. Yeah.
And I do have another recollection of
And every
Amanda
cloud.
Righetti. Every cloud, yes.
Every cloud was like,
Yeah,
that was
every
another
cloud.
one.
And an unhealthy obsession with Chuck Norris. I'm not quite
Yes.
sure what that was
I don't know
about.
where that one came from, but yes, there was a lot of Chuck
I think,
Norris
Owen, you
references.
just grabbed a Chuck Norris book and brought it to set one day, and I thought it was the best thing I'd
Oh.
ever read.
Is that how
And
it
I
came
thought
about?
the fact that you thought it was the best thing was the best thing for me, because that gave
was
me
it.
license
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
to really dig into it. I would love to just touch on the end of this episode before maybe taking it over to some fan questions to round us out here. There was a lovely moment at the end that I'd not clocked before, where there was a genuine pathos and sadness in Jane as he's approached by a beautiful woman who says, we'd love you to come over and join us. And he says, no, I'm married. And then he looks down at the ring and he sort of plays with the ring. And again, these are moments that I wasn't hearty to as an actor.
Right.
And it really begins to explain to me the investment and the popularity of the show, because we're only 14 episodes in here, and yet I really feel like I know every single one of these characters. Behind all of the humor, behind the procession of women that are brought in, and the great line where Joe's like, this is just A through M, there's more. I loved that. But under all of that, the show ends with a very, very serious beat. And I think that we've said it before, and I'll say it again. The skill of our show was being able to meter those two instincts, the
Mhm.
funny, know when to rein it back in, and know when to end after all of the calamity and the madness with an emotional beat that is, like, is it sadness? Is it regret? Is it time to move on? All of those feelings were there in that moment that he plays with
Mhm.
the wedding ring. And yeah, that sort of struck me.
Well, it humanizes Jane, I think, in a way that we don't always see him, because he's mentalizing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't have much time when you're mentalizing.
There's
Exactly. But there's a reason that he's mentalizing, and it's really those moments with the ring at the end of the episode. There's a reason that drives him to be this character and this person that he is, and the loss that he's experienced is
Is
such
that-
a driving factor.
Is that what our show is about, do you think, Amanda? Is all these, especially within this episode, and you just went into it, you just gave us a laundry list, Owen, about, excuse me, about all these different moments, right? Is that what it is, do you think? It's just small, like, excellent, small, little moments, but a lot of them throughout. There's another moment that I wanted to bring up real quick, and I'll let you answer, is Lisbon starts using Jane's words to
I noted that too.
mentalize Walcott, right?
Yeah.
So now she's a mentalist, right? So we're all learning from each other. And that's, to me, outside of, the story, as a viewer, to me, that was a moment.
Yeah,
I agree with
I
that.
think the nuances and those connective tissue, those moments that connect the bigger story points are what make the characters so endearing. I think I think with any show that's successful, there's so many different moving parts, like we've talked about, that create that kind of a hit. I think the charm and the chemistry among the five of us really helped drive the show. The writing being really great was another aspect. Having great guest stars and great directors. I mean, like I said, there's so many different aspects of the show that were great, that made it what it was and made people endeared to it. And I think ultimately the chemistry among the five of us was kind of at the top. And
Well
what
said.
we
Agree with that.
brought to what was on the page and what we brought with each other made it come alive in a way that chemistry, without it, I don't think the show would have been as successful as it was if the five of us didn't have the kind of chemistry that we did. I also feel like, I mean, obviously you haven't gotten to season 7 yet.
Right.
But I think the dynamic really shifted when Rigsby and Van Pelt left. And
100%.
there was something that was lost when
It was
they
a different
left.
show. Yeah.
And I think that that couldn't be recreated. That kind of chemistry that we all had as a core group couldn't be recreated. And it
Agreed.
was magic. It was magic, and it's the kind of magic that you don't know until you're there if it's going to be created. And it's a real testament to the casting directors too, and being able to kind of gauge what each one of us was going to bring. And I think we all really brought it, and we made it come alive in a way that it jumped off the page.
Yeah, that's a great.
I think I agree with that entirely. I think also, just to sort of push your point back at you, Tim, what is a great hit series or a great movie if it isn't just a collection of moments? When I think back to things that I like, you used the analogy of Mad Men, for example, earlier. I remember very specific moments in that series, and I think it was because they were elevated by the actors, they were elevated by the chemistry. And so I don't even know if it was more moments. No one sets out to make a bad show. It was just those moments felt elevated. So you had a showman here that you ran with, and you elevated it. Sorry, I'm going to stop the show puns soon.
Wow.
But or not.
Maybe after this episode.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, this season. I would love to just maybe take a couple questions just as we round out here. So this is a good one for Amanda. What do you think happened to your character after the show ended? And this comes from Kinga. I know we were given a bit of info on where Rigsby and Van Pelt's journey was, but how do you imagine that? What are they up to now?
I would imagine that they've gone into private security and are making a lot of money in private security and cybersecurity. I think the pivot out of the CBI is one that they were able to elevate and build on.
Yeah, that's great.
I agree with that. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, along those lines. In fact, you and I talked about it before because I had that question or a version of it. Yeah, I agree.
There's one question here that I'd love to send to you, Tim. This is from Nerd Reviews London. I've been planning a Mentalist rewatch myself recently. What acting moment were you most proud of? An ad lib, an emotional scene, a physical moment? I would love to know, and keep being awesome. I think that's to me, that last bit, but I don't mind it being to both of us. I'm going to take that.
With you.
Keep being awesome, Owen. Thanks, Nerd Review London. Maybe it says Owen on the end. Oh no, it doesn't. That's weird.
As we just talked about, it's a lot of episodes worth of moments, and to distill it down to one is next to impossible.
Distill it down to one. Give me a choment.
Then it
one
would have
single
to be,
choment.
Yeah. For let's say this episode, I think. Why don't we go back to Amanda, and then I'll come back to it.
Okay,
yeah.
so I have another question here. If there was one character you wish got brought back more in later seasons, who would that be?
I really loved working with Malcolm McDowell. I wish that I would have been able to do more scenes with him. I was only blessed to shoot like maybe 2 scenes with him. And
well, what did you do? I remember him coming on the show. I don't remember.
I interviewed him. It was like it wasn't really it was not an interrogation, but I showed up at his office when, that was that weird church thing that he was involved in.
Visualize, yeah.
So it must have been season 6.
Yeah, it was late in the season.
It was late in the series. What a lovely man. What a wonderful actor. And just so full of wisdom, and I really appreciated getting to work with him and meet him and get to know him a little bit, and I wish that I could have worked with him more.
Oh yeah, he was a legend. I wished I'd had any scenes with him.
Yeah,
but sadly didn't. A Clockwork Orange was, it's legendary, and there was so much I would have loved to have asked him. And but that's a perfect example of what we often talk about in episodic television. You can have complete characters that will just bypass you. One person who I wanted to give an honorable mention to was Gillian Bach, I think her name was, who played Sarah, the baby mama of Rigsby before he finally found true love with your character, obviously. And that was a really hard character to play because you know that no one's rooting for that relationship.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you're waiting for that relationship to go south. But I remember her having a lot of fun with her. I mean, look, she's no great Van Pelt. But I'll be naming a seltzer after her anytime soon. But we had a lot of fun with the baby arc, and I had an episode that I think made it onto a blooper reel for one of the seasons where I remember being with Geary and I was looking at milk bottles for kids, and this was back in the time before any of us had kids, so I genuinely didn't need to act being befuddled. I had no idea what I was doing with these, like it was all like instruments and tools that made no sense to me, and I clipped the top, and it's Rigsby supposed to be in Clueless looking at a milk bottle, and I remember I flicked the top off and the plastic top of the bottle hit the camera cleanly and just bounced off it. It was the funniest thing. Taj, who was our operator, was like, yeah, we're gonna have to go again on that. But I felt like I would give her an honorable mention, someone who I really enjoyed working with, a lot of fun, and brought a lot to a smaller role. Anyone that you sort of can think of off the top of the head, Tim?
What was the question originally?
A character who you would like to have seen maybe come back more?
Yeah, I think the Summer character, I didn't know the way that kind of transpired. I think it was kind of more, what's the word? I didn't appreciate as much the way that we wrapped up her story.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of, we could have done a little bit more, I thought, but other than that,
she's a big fan favorite, Samira.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah, she's great, and
I always thought that there was something more that we could have done. That's
could have explored.
I could have explored it more. And it's a tough question to me because it kind of connotes regret. I don't really have much regret in this show, if any. But they're asking, what's your biggest regret? So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't see it necessarily like that. I see it more along the lines of we were so lucky to have the people that we have guest on our show that sometimes it felt like a real embarrassment of riches to be able to say, so I think there were times where I was like, I would have loved to have had more scenes with that Fred Kohler guy who played Tommy. He was phenomenal. Fred was great when he did that kind of like presumed innocent turn. I was like, wow, I wish I'd had the opportunity to act with him. I'm going to say another huge, heartfelt TV Police thank you. We hope you will come back, quite honestly, just whenever you can, Amanda. We want you here
it's
always.
Be a regular thing moving
we
forward.
we don't want to be shy about saying that the 3V Police is quite literally a genuine offer. So take us up on that as much as you want. You are a beloved presence to us, to the fans. Quite honestly, I would much prefer...
I mean, it's not the Three Musketeers without me, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've really cheered up the screen and just brought your wonderful...
My God. Oh, yes.
Grape Van Peltzer energy.
I'm going to have to get some grape seltzer next time. To fill my bottle with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody, wherever you are.
And wherever you are in the world.
Wherever you are. Here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy New
Year!